animals, and if someone finds injured, say, opossums, which I'll introduce you to Jasper in a few, or baby squirrels, or something that's been hit by a car, or even raptors, birds, girl snakes. Thank you. You can ask questions later on if you want, all right? So we take them, and the whole idea is wild animals belong in the wild. So if they're able to be rehabilitated, healed, then we release them back into the wild. There are some, like the ones that we have right now, that due to circumstances could not be released back safely into the wild, which means they wouldn't be able to survive on their own. So they become educational ambassadors. Sometimes you'll see, like, how many of you have been to Potter Park and seen the eagles that are in the eagle cage? Those are eagles that have been rehabilitated. We do have one at Wildside right now that will possibly go to a zoo or be an educational animal. He lost a wing, and so he's at our place right now. And then eventually somebody will take him, and he'll be an ambassador as well. So Wildside is out in Eaton Rapids, and we, as I said, take care of lots of different animals, and the ones that I'm going to focus on today are mammals. How many of you have found baby squirrels or chipmunks or anything like that? And you know what to do with them? What would you do with them? What do you think? How about baby bunnies? Baby bunnies this year, we had well over 1,200 baby bunnies at Wildside this year. How many of you have found baby bunnies, like from mowing the lawn, or a dog got into the nest? And what do you do with those babies? What do you think? Okay, good. A lot of times that when you find them, especially like bunnies, you're supposed to kind of, if you know where the nest is, put them, unless they're injured, put them back into the nest and put the fluff there, because a lot of people, well, the mom's not there, it's not there, they're all by themselves. Moms kind of take off in the morning and come back at night to feed the baby bunnies. So if you find some, put them in their nest, protect them from cats, dogs, whatever other animal. And if you know for sure that the parent was killed, the mom got killed, or there's some other circumstances where you can't protect them, that's when you call up a place like Wildside. And you bring the bunnies to us, or the squirrels to us, or the opossums to us, and we take care of them. Because if a lot of people try taking care of them on their own, but they have special needs and a diet, and if they are not given the things that they need early on, they will not survive. So it's really important that if you find any wildlife, that especially babies, that the parent is no longer around, that you get in touch with a wildlife rehabilitation center, like the one in Eaton Rapids that we work at. Opossums, how many of you have seen opossums hit on the side of the road? It's crazy. 2 times a year, early spring, and sometimes mid to late summer. If you see one or that recently has been hit, or you have actually hit one on your own, like you're in the car that you're in, it's really important based on growth, but you need to check for babies. You guys know something really cool about opossums? I'm going to show you one that's not real, but it's kind of cool. What do you know about them? Well, I don't know anything about them, but I have a question. Yes. So are they the thing in a sense? There's such thing as so there's opossums and then there's possums. Kind of the same thing. Okay, so I was wondering, like, what are the differences? Are they two different? My husband makes fun of me because since I started working there, I always say opossum, because that's when you look it up. But possum is just short. That's okay. But I kind of, my husband and my son make fun because I was there. So pretend this is a female opossum. What do you guys notice right here on this part? The real ones do not, believe it or not, do not have zippers. Okay? But there's something really cool about opossums, and I'm I'm going to show you something that I want you to raise your hand if you can tell me what animal, I don't know, I want to say species, but what, like, group that they would be in. Thank you. Okay, so if I go like this, and I pull out, what does this remind you of? Raise your hand. What animal does this remind you of? What does it remind you of? Like a kangaroo. It kind of has a pocket, like a kangaroo. Do you know, what is a kangaroo called? What animal group is a kangaroo in? Marsupials. They're marsupials. Opossums are the only marsupials in North America. Did you guys know that they're marsupials? No. Is that, you didn't know that, did you? Did you know that, Ethan?
Through all of your Facebook posts.
Through my
yes.
Facebook posts. I didn't know it until I started working at Wildside. I thought they were the scariest things in the world. My dog had one up on the back fence. It was like with my flashlight and red eyes and big teeth, and I'm thinking, oh, what a gross, scary animal. They are amazing, amazing creatures. So what happens when the mom gives birth to the babies, just like a kangaroo, and a koala bear, same thing. The babies they're about the size of a honeybee, and they crawl up into the mom's pouch. And inside her pouch, she has her little kind of nipples. There's 13 of them. They crawl in, latch on, and they stay in there for 2 months to grow. Is that kind of crazy? Now, what if you're number 14? What's going to happen? You're not going to be able, you won't have any food, so you would not survive. So it's basically that whole thing, survival of the fittest. The ones that get there first are going to be kind of getting all the nutrition and food. So they can have actually give birth, well, they can give birth to more, but they can raise up to 13 babies in their pouch. And when they get to be about 2 months old, hang on, honey. When they get to be about 2 months old, they start to kind of crawl out and explore. And whenever they're scared or they're hungry, they crawl right back in for a while. You need to later on, or maybe Mr. Carlson can do this, Google the opossum school bus. It's kind of crazy. Or go to Wildside's Facebook page and there's some videos. Do some videos of mom opossums. So when they eventually, what the mom does is when they get bigger and they start to explore a little bit, when it's time for her to move, they all kind of hang out on her back. Or I had one when I was releasing a mom with some babies. It was kind of hanging out on her tail and his mom's turning. It's like whipping around like a little carnival ride. And she turns and it goes flying this way, but it's hanging on to dear life because she keeps moving on. And if they fall off, mom doesn't stop to get them. They're on their own. And if they're strong enough, they probably can survive. If they're not strong enough, they won't make it. So once again, the strongest survive. And the ones that pay attention and can latch on really well to mom. So we raised probably over 900 baby opossums this year. It was a crazy summer. I don't know if it's because everybody was home and they were on the lookout for things. So if you find an opossum on the side of the road that's recently been hit, early spring, late summer, I know it's kind of gross if it got hit, but you need to check because if there's babies in there, oh yeah, the garbage can I think is bringing babies, so we'll have to. If there's babies in there, they will only survive up to, I think, 48 hours, and then they die too. So if you can get them soon enough out of their pouch and into a rehabilitation place, they will survive, higher likelihood of surviving. Okay? Yes?
How many opossums would you say that they can have?
Well, they can raise up to 13 in their pouch because they only have the 13 little nipples in there. But they can have more, but the ones that don't get into the pouch first, then they will not survive. Does anyone have any other questions about opossums?
What are the normal amount of babies that they have?
We've had some, like actually, we had one opossum mother, well, we had the babies come in, and this has been 2 summers in a row. Saddest thing, I'll get with you in a second. Carter Zoo has a nice lion cage, right? Past 2 summers, some unfortunate mom got into the lion cage. lions loved mom, but didn't get the babies. So the babies, actually, there were 12 of them that we had. So normally 10, 12 seems to be an average that we get, sometimes 8, so it depends. But we had 12 babies that were rescued from Potter Park Zoo. This has been 2 summers in a row that has happened. We're like, okay, you got to do something to keep those moms out of the lion cage. So I don't know if they're climbing up and over. We have no idea how they're getting in there. But we now, out of those 12 that we had, I think that we have 8 that have survived. And they're growing bigger, and eventually they get to be released back into the wild. Okay? Let's see. Cool things about opossums too. They love to eat ticks. How many of you have dogs or cats? Ticks are awful. Lyme disease, all that stuff, right? So it's not like they go around searching for ticks. When they're crawling through the weeds, the ticks kind of go on their fur, and they like to eat them off. Like, because they're always like, they like to be clean. So they eat up to 5,000 ticks a season per opossum. It's a lot of ticks. So if you have an opossum in your yard, keep it there. Protect it from any animals. So they're really good things. The other really cool thing about opossums, unlike, say, raccoons and things like that, raccoons have a habit of curing what disease?
Rabies.
Opossums do not. Their body temperature is lower, and so the rabies virus cannot survive in an opossum. So they are free from most diseases. They eat lots of ticks. They're really cool. They're marsupials. It's like a kangaroo in the United States. So what else could there, I mean, how many of you have changed your opinion about opossums from being creepy, nocturnal animals with big giant teeth? They're really cool. When you see Jasper, if you haven't changed your mind yet, you'll love it. Okay, you had a question.
Why do they play dead?
Why do they play dead? It's one of that was a great question. It's one of their defense mechanisms. So a lot of times what they do is they play dead and they secrete this kind of odor, and they have their teeth kind of bared. And with the odor, it's offensive to the animals that might want to eat it. And they almost like totally stop their, lower their like blood pressure. I'm trying to think how to get their heart rate, okay? Which would I guess go with that. But so they lower their heart rate almost, and sometimes it takes them a little while to actually unfreeze.
Yeah.
And they do that when they're, you know, if they see a car coming down the road too, a lot of times they freeze. That's when they get hit as well. Because they also are like the nature's garbage collectors. They eat dead animals. They eat garbage laying around. They eat all sorts of things, insects, lots of things. If you see in your trash cans, they're trash collectors. I rescued one in a trash can that couldn't get out. Yes.
Rabbits actually do the same thing. They slow their heartbeat when they feel threatened.
Yep.
My rabbit does the same thing, but he was able to keep it up.
Very good. Okay, anybody else questions about opossums? Yes, sir.
I forgot that.
That's okay. Now, the other cool thing about opossums is they have like their little hands.
Fellas,
They can
listen up.
grab onto things. How many of you have seen pictures where opossums are like hanging upside down like this with a tree? Only the babies can pretty much. Why don't you think an adult could really hang upside down? They're way too heavy. Their tail is actually, it's a prehensile tail. They actually use their tail as kind of balancing for when they're crawling around up in trees, but they actually use it as an arm too. So when they're trying to gather nesting material to keep warm, they actually will take stuff and wrap it around their tail and they drag it. So it's also used as an arm. It's a pretty crazy thing. Yes.
Oh, I remember. So, what type of areas do they live in?
They could be right around here. They're normally the ones in the United States and North America, they're called the Virginia possums. They came here, oh gosh, they actually are kind of prehistoric type animals. They've been around for a long, long time. But they mainly were in the South, but as climate has changed, they've ventured further and further north. You find them in woods, near farms, probably a city area where there's not a lot of trees and weeds and grass. You wouldn't find it in an area like that. Around here, tons of them. Okay, downtown Lansing, not so much. Okay, Anybody else? I know. So I am gonna like get for just a minute, and then Olivia's gonna take over. Jasper actually is somebody tried raising him as a baby, and ready for this thing? This is Jasper. He gets a leash. I'm gonna let him down. He's like, I've been in that bag. Let me go. Jasper was raised as like early on as a from somebody, and you know it's illegal to try to raise wildlife. Did you guys know that?
Yeah.
Yep.
It is illegal. So, oh, you want your snacks? Come here. And what happened was when he got big enough and we tried to release him, Olivia did, he was too scared. And Jasper, oh gosh. Okay, come here, big guy. You like the camera, don't you, big hand? Jasper's a little on the hefty side, so we're kind of working on, look at these. Find your snacks. Here you go. We try to keep him a little entertained. So anyway, we tried to release Jasper, and he was not feeling safe outside. He kind of hid in like a little doghouse thing, and Olivia brought him back inside. And he's just, you can see, is this the normal opossum you would find outside?
No.
No, not at all. So yeah, this is our good buddy. He's very healthy, as you can see, and we really take good care of him.
He's adorable.
I know, isn't he adorable? How could you not love that face?
I've never seen that before.
Isn't that cool? Yeah. As I said, the first time I saw one on the fence, I was like, oh, they're ugly. No, they're really cool.
Do they like, do they squeak?
Do they what?
Do they squeak?
He makes some noises sometimes, but not really. He does more like sometimes like clicking noises when he's like looking for a mate. He was going through this clicking stage. They also like to call it swabbing. They'll take and like lick, like he was swabbing on everybody's feet at one point. It was like leaving his scent like a dog will pee and mark spots. He'll sit there and like rub his the sides of his mouth and get saliva all over everything. It's like leaving his little scent brother. So we call it swabbing. But he's an amazing thing. So any other questions about mammals or anything? Okay, good. So Olivia.
Okay, guys. So, I want to cover a couple things that Sandra hit on, but I want to reinforce for you guys with wildlife rehab. When you find a wild animal, like she said, it is illegal to try to take care of it yourself. So if you ever have like a friend or a family member who says, I'm just going to raise this myself, you should tell them that they shouldn't, not just because it's illegal, but because a lot of times at the wildlife center, we get people who call and they say, I've had this bunny for a week, I've had this baby bird or this squirrel for a week, and it's really not doing well, it's not eating. Will you guys take it? And by the time it gets to us, it's so bad that a lot of times the animal dies. So if you guys ever find anything, you are much better off bringing it to us than trying to keep it yourself. Because all of these guys need really specialized care, a lot of the information on the internet is wrong because remember, anybody can put anything on the internet. And a lot of it is outdated. So a lot of times people will call us and say, I tried to feed squirrels this, and we're like, oh yeah, rehabbers stopped feeding out the squirrels like 20 years ago. So keep that in mind. Another thing that you should know is anytime you find an animal, you can look up Michigan licensed wildlife rehabilitators and it'll come up with a contact page, and you can call any of those rehabbers and ask what you should do with an animal. So anytime you find an animal, the key thing is to call somebody who knows what they're doing. So how many of you have heard of the word raptor before?
Okay.
Does anybody know what the word raptor means? Yeah.
A bird.
Okay, say raptors are a type of bird. Does anybody have a guess at what types of birds are raptors? Yeah.
Isn't it like that dinosaur thing?
Right. So birds are actually dinosaurs. They are the only living group of dinosaurs still on the planet. And raptors are a specific type of dinosaurs, and now we've referred to them as a specific type of bird. And they are carnivorous, so they hunt and eat other living things. You'll know that most like songbirds, for example, are not raptors. That's because they have pointy beaks and their feet are small and delicate, and they eat things like seeds and fruit and insects. Whereas the birds I'm going to show you guys today will hunt things like squirrels and rabbits and mice and voles and even things like snakes and lizards. And so raptors are the meat-eating group of birds. So can anybody think like of a meat-eating bird? Yeah.
Like a hawk or an eagle.
A hawk or an eagle. There's a couple other examples. Do you have a guess? Blue jays, they are very ferocious, but they are not meat eaters. They fight real hard. Yeah. Vultures are also raptors. Yeah. Cranes do actually eat meat, but they are a different kind of bird. The difference between cranes is that they are long-legged and have real long teeth. Yeah. Owls are the other big group of raptors. So we have things like hawks, eagles, vultures, and owls. Yes. Do you have a guess?
Penguins?
Penguins are not raptors. Penguins are their own group, but they also eat meat. These are good guesses. You guys can kind of see how like the term raptor doesn't apply to everything that eats meat, but it applies to a specific group of meat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab one of our birds, and we'll talk a little bit more about why raptors are important for the ecosystem, and then we'll talk about the type of birds that I have and why we have the educational birds that we do. Yep. Okay, guys. So this is Oz, and he is one of our resident ambassadors at Wildside. Oz is one of our owls, and he is a meat eater. So one important thing that you guys should know about birds of prey is that they help keep the ecosystem balanced. So what they do is they go out and they hunt wildlife, such as like mice, squirrels, chipmunks, snakes, and that kind of thing. And they hunt a lot of animals that eat plants, and that helps gives the chance of plants to grow. So if there are too many herbivores in an ecosystem, what happens to the plants? Yeah. Right, really good. So when there's too many herbivores in an ecosystem, the plants all get eaten, and then there aren't many more plants. And so then the plants have a really hard time coming back. And so what the predators do, like these raptors, is they eat the plant eaters, they eat the herbivores, so that the plants have a chance to grow, and so they're not getting overeaten. Another great example of this is the wolves in Yellowstone. So I don't know if you guys have heard of this example, but they released wolves in Yellowstone because the deer were eating too many of the young trees. And so the trees weren't growing back in the national park. And when the wolves came and ate a bunch of the deer or scared the deer out of certain areas, a lot of the trees were able to grow up and become adult trees. So Oz here is a type of owl. Does anybody know what kind of owl Oz is? Yeah.
Barn owl?
He's not a barn owl. There's Another type of owl, yeah. He's not an elf owl, but that's a good guess. Yeah.
Night owl?
He is a night owl. He does prefer the evening. Yes. Oz is actually a barred owl. Barred. And so he's a barred owl, and they call them barred owls because of the barring feathering on their feathers. You can kind of see the brown stripes. And Oz actually came to us because he was hit by a car once, and we think he lost sight in one of his eyes. But because owls rely a lot on hearing to hunt, because they hunt at night, they can survive in the wild if they can still see out of one eye. So we think Oz got hit once and lost sight in one of his eyes and was having some trouble hunting, and then we think he got hit again by a different car later on. We suspect that he got hit twice because some of his injuries were healed a whole bunch, and some of them were very fresh. And so we think he got hit once, then struggled, and then got healed, and then got hit again. And now Oz is entirely blind, so he can't see anything. He is non-releasable, so we can't put him back out in the wild because even though he can hear really well, he can't hear well enough to find his food. He still has to be able to see someone. So a couple fun things about owls. Owls have this dish-shaped face to help funnel sound to their ears. They also have one ear higher on the other side of their head than the other, and that is also so that they can kind of zero in on movement at a really great distance. So most owls can actually hear things really far away. I believe great horns or I think it's snowy owls can hear a mouse about a mile away under like 3 to 5 feet of snow. So they have excellent hearing, and that is how they hunt. Barred owls here live in riparian zones, which means areas like forested areas along rivers, and so Oz here will hunt things like mice, voles, snakes. He'll also see the occasional like insect or grasshopper. They have a very like wide variety of diets. So do you guys have any questions about owls or Oz? Yeah. So Oz has been with us for about 10 years, and somebody brought him to us after they found him in the road when he'd been hit by a car a couple times. So he was injured, and what usually happens with birds of prey is they're no longer able to care for themselves, and so they end up they can't fly, or they can't get away from humans, or they're starving to death. And essentially what happens is people see them and they realize the bird doesn't belong here. This isn't normal behavior for a bird. And they call us and they say, hey, we have this bird like in the middle of the road, in our backyard, it's stuck in this building, and they say, what do we do? And we tell them, you got to put it in a box and bring it to us. Yeah.
Did you lose sight when he was hit, or did you guys have to take it out?
So that's a good question. You guys can see that on his left side, he does have an eye in his skull, but on his right side, he does not. And essentially what happened was the right eye started to kind of collapse into his skull, and we were worried that it would get infected, and so the doctor removed it. But usually if the eyeballs are okay, even if they don't work, we try to leave them in because it kind of holds their face in place, and it just is more comfortable for them that way. Oh, yeah.
Oz likes to talk.
Oz really likes to talk when we go on educational trips. It's one of his favorite tricks, but sometimes we have to encourage him a little bit to talk. So I'm going to see if I can get him to talk to you guys. And then once he stops, he doesn't, or once he starts, he doesn't stop.
He talks all day when we're inside cleaning cages and stuff.
Ozzy.
Like, the one time.
Usually the Merlin app works. He's thinking about it a little bit. No, you mean? want to talk? I am so offended. You don't want to talk? No?
Stubborn today.
Just takes him a second. So birds actually call to each other for a lot of reasons. One reason is to defend their territory, so they'll let other birds in the area know this is my space, this is my home, this is where I build my nest. Come in here, I'm going to hurt you. So male barred owls will kind of call to make sure that they've established their territory around their nest, so that other males don't come in and try to use it. Another reason is they might be communicating with their mate to figure out where they are. So if Oz is like in one tree and he had a girlfriend in another tree, he might call to her to find out where she is, and then she would call back and say, I'm over here. And then another reason is babies will often call to their parents so that their parents know where they are, so that the parents can come feed them. After baby birds leave the nest, they kind of hang out with their parents for a few weeks up to a few months. In fact, bald eagles will hang out, are actually juveniles for about 5 years. Bald eagles don't become adults for 5 whole years. And so they'll kind of hang around with their parents and get food from their parents because they haven't learned to hunt really well by themselves. It's kind of like when you graduate high school and you go to college, a lot of times you like still come back to your parents' house for dinner and they feed you because you still haven't learned to like cook and grocery shop and feed yourself. So birds do kind of the same thing. Anybody else have questions about Oz?
Really quick, I just want to it is just a touch after 1 o'clock. So if your parents said that we have to leave right at 1 o'clock, I just want to let everybody know that it is 1. So they have some more stuff to do. If you can stay a little longer, great. If not, we understand.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put Oz away, and I will get our other friend here out. Yeah.
We also have another guest today. He's off in the corner trying to hide from everyone.
Hi, guys.
Keep shimmying down and bothering everyone.
He doesn't have 100 miles an hour.
Never seen such nice grass before. This is awesome.
Great.
Right?
Why don't we treat our lawn like this? Can you step up? Don't be difficult. Another girl. And make it.
I'll go behind you.
Good boy. You gonna eat that or you just gonna? There we go. Now we're talking. Alright guys, so this is our second raptor of the day. And just really
What is that?
it is rat meat.
And
So
you picked it up with your hand?
yeah. Yep.
You're not face?
Nope. Okay. So after seeing two raptors, can anybody tell me something that all raptors or birds of prey have in common? Yeah.
Talons?
They have talons. So Blaze here, our resident redtail, and Oz both have very sharp, very powerful talons. The average human hand can squeeze at about 20 pounds per square inch. These beaks can squeeze at about 400 pounds per square inch. So you would think that the sharp talons are what hurt. You would think his toenails are what really hurt when he grabs you, but it is actually the crushing pressure that he can exert on your hand or arm when he squeezes. So, we're gonna poop. So when he really squeezes down, that's what really hurts. And all birds of prey actually share this. So eagles can squeeze at about 1,500 pounds of pressure per square inch. They can break bones if they want to. So what else do they share in common? Talons are a big one. There's one other big one. Yeah.
Their beak is like a
They have very sharp hooked beaks. And why do we think they have these hooked beaks and talons?
hunted too.
Exactly. So that they can grab meat and they can hold it and they can tear it up and eat it. So these guys have some pretty powerful weapons for catching their food. Does anyone, I think I might have actually already said it. Does anybody have a guess at what Blaze is? Say it already?
Yeah. Peregrine falcon.
He is not a peregrine falcon.
Hawk?
It's a hawk. Do we know what kind of hawk? Yeah. He is a red-tailed hawk. I think I said that, but I'm glad some people were paying attention. So he is a red-tailed hawk. He's a red-tailed hawk because he has this fancy red tail that he's not gonna like be poking at. Adult red tails get their second-year red tails get their red tail after their first year, basically. So after, when they are a year old, they'll have a brown stripy tail that's a little bit longer, and then in their second year, they molt all their feathers, and they get this big, chunky red tail in the back. And so when you see them up flying in the sky, that's how you can kind of tell. You can see the light shining through them. It looks like a brick red color. And those are red tails. They are the largest hawk in Michigan and the second largest hawk in North America. If you go out west, you can see the ferruginous hawk, which is a little bit bigger than these guys. They are a very common species, so they're not endangered or of concern. And they come in some very. What are you making that face? He's like, I'm so uncomfortable. He doesn't usually make that face. There you go. So, Blaze is a type of hawk. He's in what we call the Buteo genus. So the Buteo genus are what Europeans actually call buzzards. And these guys are a little bit chunkier. They have, you can see Blaze has these funky big feet. He's a little bit meaty. We also have birds called Cooper's hawks and Chartreuse hawks, and those are true hawks. They're called exhibitors. They're the exhibitor genus. And they actually hunt birds. So they'll hunt things like cardinals and sparrows and blue jays, whereas these guys are mammal hunters. So a couple key differences from falcons, which I think somebody brought up, is that hawks generally kill with their feet. So they use their big, powerful feet to squeeze their prey to death. Whereas falcons will use. Do you have like a spray bottle?
No.
Or
Like, I'm not really liking that.
he knows how to gag his feet back up.
Oh!
No idea why.
He's got fur stuck in his mouth.
So Blaze is just a little bit, wigged out by the crowd. We do educational programs and he's used to this, but it's still a little bit new, or it's still a little bit like nervous for him to be in front of, 30 people. So I think he's eating his food a little faster than he normally does. So he might try to spit this back up because it might have gone down. I cannot believe this.
You wouldn't do anything with it.
No. But anyway, so falcons actually kill their prey with their beaks. So they use their very sharp three-pronged beaks to like savor vital organs in their prey, whereas these guys will just squeeze their food to death. So some key things that you guys should know about their training. We do have a little bit of equipment on them. And this is so that they stay with us and they don't get away from us when we're out on trips like this, because if they get away, they will not make it. So Blaze here has some cuffs on, and these are so that I can attach the jesses to. And the jesses are these leather strips that you guys see that I'm holding and he's kind of standing on right now. And this is so that I can hold these in the glove so he can't just fly off from me. So at home, he keeps his cuffs and his jesses on all day, every day. They're not uncomfortable, they're very soft, and he just hangs out in them. When we go on trips, I actually tie a leash to the jesses so that if he tries to fly away, even if he gets out of the hold that I have the jesses in, even if he, yanks hard or I'm not paying attention, he's still tied to my glove so that if he flies, he can't go very far. And that's okay with me because Blaze actually cannot see out of his right eye. As you guys can see, so he's not bothered by me waving my hand over here, but when I wave it over here, he kind of jumps a little bit because he doesn't realize I'm that close. And so hawks actually, because they are very sight oriented, they cannot survive in the wild if they can't see out of both of their eyes, because they need to really be able to see their prey. So hawks actually see about 20 frames per second, where humans only see about 20 frames per second. So that's why we put these guys in these dark boxes when we travel. When we take away their sight, it helps relieve a lot of stress for them and keep them calm. So that's another one of our pieces of equipment. And the other thing we do to train these guys is we use positive reinforcement, and we pretty much only use positive reinforcement. So we give these guys food, like I've been doing with Blaze, so that they associate these situations with something that they really enjoy. They really like food, and so when we're doing things that are new or scary to them, and we give them food while we do it, then they kind of come to learn that these scary situations are not so bad, and that they get food out of it. And so this kind of becomes a positive situation for Blaze, and he looks forward to doing things like training and going on educational trips. So does anybody have? Sure. Does anybody have questions about the birds? Yeah.
What's the average lifespan of the two?
So barred owls, I believe, are about 15 to 20 years in captivity. In the wild they probably live like 5 to 10. In the captivity, 15 to 20. In the wild, reptiles live anywhere from 1 to like 10 years maybe. So actually 80% of first-year birds, baby birds, die because they can't feed themselves well enough. And so we get a lot of young hawks coming in at this time because they're starving and they haven't figured out how to hunt. And in captivity, these guys can live for about 20 to 25 years. We have a great horned owl right now who's in her 30s, and she'll probably live another 20 years with us. And eagles, I think, can live like 50 years. And so they can have a really good lifespan if they are cared for well. In the wild, because, things are harder, it's usually a little bit shorter. Anybody else have questions? Yeah.
Is he like colorblind at all?
So actually, birds can see more colors than humans can. They can see the UV spectrum as well. And scientists figure this out because you guys know what substance blocks UV radiation? You guys know where UV radiation comes from, or UV light? I think I heard it. The sun. So UV radiation comes from the sun. So what do you do to protect yourself from the sun? You put sunblock on. So sunblock prevents UV light from coming through. And since scientists put some sunblock on some birds, and they figured out that when they put sunblock on some male birds, then the females wouldn't go flirt with them. And so they figured out that the birds can see UV radiation and that they actually use it to pick, in some species, who to mate with. So boys can see more colors than we can. Yeah. Any more questions about birds, wildlife, mammals? All right, so thank you guys so much. I'm gonna go ahead and put Blaze away now. And we really appreciate you guys having us.
And I have flyers on Wild Side and what to do if you find songbirds, raptors, mammals. Just gives you some information. And there's also a Wild Side wish list because we are 100% volunteer basis and everything that we get, we're a nonprofit. And all the equipment, all the things that we need, it's all through donations and funding, grants and stuff like that. So we always could use some things and just look at the list and anything you could do, then that's awesome. Okay? All right, guys, thank you.
Somebody got it, yeah? Thank you guys so
Yeah,
much.
you're welcome. Thank you. You didn't run too long, did we?
Nope, we're 115.
Nope. Just fine. That's right. All right, everybody, I got to jump into my next class. So this is recorded. I will post this on our Google Classroom. I hope you all enjoyed it, and we will see you tomorrow.
Hey, sorry,
Bye,
Mr.
everybody.
Chen, I couldn't make it today. Bye.